So look, this session really is an opportunity, for us to have a conversation really and reflect upon, some of those real gems that have come about as a result of the conversations that we've had. I really hope that you all enjoyed the workshops and had the opportunity to have input into where you see the space moving for us. And so again, thank you all for your participation, and thank you to our facilitators for your mahi as well. So look, I'm going to flick this conversation over here, and I'm going to start with you, Maui, in regards to, you talked to me before about there were particular themes that you'd seen that had come about as a result of the conversation. I thought, maybe let's start off there.
I know, kia ora, Pahia. So I guess firstly I'd like to just say that listening to the speakers today and yesterday, especially those young Māori and other Indigenous speakers, has been really inspiring, and I think our future's in good hands.
So some of the old ones weren't bad either.
Oh, one or two, all right, brother. But look, yeah, I've actually made some notes just so that I don't go on too long, and I'm just sort of picking out what I saw as some themes to emerge over the last couple of days. One of them is it's clear that Māori are out there doing it anyway. They're really active. They're in that business and that trade space, but it's not just all about making money. There's actually another dimension to it, and that's the dimension that's missing, and it's certainly the dimension that ngā Toki Whakarururanga wants to help push that particular kaupapa more. And Māori are some of the world's most active entrepreneurs. I think that's pretty well known, and so I think that's something to be celebrated. Another thing a theme that emerged is that the rules of the free trade and international trade are skewed against Indigenous people, and that needs to change. It's skewed in favour of large corporations, and as one person described it today, referring to, it's skewed in favour of predominantly non-Indigenous people or white, let's face it, white people, I think is the terms he used. And it's important to inspire rangatahi to be involved and support them into future, present and future leadership positions. Another speaker today said that Māori and Indigenous values are really a point of difference, and that adds a premium and a value that needs to be put out there and developed more. Another theme, I think, to emerge over the last couple of days is to place papatūnuku and people ahead of profit. At the current time, it's the other way around. It's all profit-driven. Another theme is the importance of making space for Māori and other Indigenous peoples in decision-making processes, both locally and internationally, and that includes within the CPTPP, ITAG, and indeed all free trade agreements. A speaker today talked about warning us against over-focusing on the macro issues and not, and maybe ignoring the micro issues, and I think that's an important point, because we have been, in a forum like this, I guess we are discussing more of those macro issues. But a lot of people here are actively engaged. We heard from Wayne Mulligan today, all of the great mahi he's doing and out there promoting those sorts of business and investment opportunities. Another theme from yesterday is the importance of kotahitanga, that although we're all on different waka and we all might have different aspirations, It's important that we don't allow ourselves to be divided, and we continue to keep sailing in the right direction and not throwing stones at one another along the way, because it's easy to divide and rule, and we know that the Crown and colonial institutions have been very good at doing that.
We're extremely fortunate that we don't do that to each other.
We are indeed.
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely
Yeah, completely
right.
agree. Was that a joke you just made?
No,
there?
no, we don't.
Another theme, the need for major transformational change to the philosophy of how trade is being conducted, worldwide, because look, it's resulting and has resulted in a climate crisis now, because we're giving, we're extracting too many resources from the earth. We're doing a whole lot of things that are not actually going to be fruitful for future generations, and also that Indigenous peoples' philosophy should take a leading role, that Indigenous people should take a leading role in that transformation. Just the last one is, there were concerns especially expressed today by a couple of speakers over the potential for there to be increased exploitation under the CPTPP of natural resources on Indigenous people's lands. I think that was raised by our Canadian Indigenous delegate. I don't think she's here today. And also the impact of genetically modified organisms, and that New Zealand, there are some who want New Zealand to go down that path, and we had a speaker, I think it was yesterday and maybe also today, warning us against that, because at the end of the day that's tampering with whakapapa, and we do that at our own risk and peril. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you.
Kia ora, Maui. Over to you, Ngahiwi.
Kaore he kōrero tuata ki ngā kōrero kua kōrero here. There's no better speech than the speeches that we heard today. The gems that were flying around were like, I was going to say Russian missiles, but bad metaphor. These ones are going to hit the mark. These ones are going to hit the mark because we heard it from the new generation of explorers in this field, and the brilliance of those. So I'm just going to refer to a couple of the speeches. First of all, to Pahia. He still thinks he's a rangatahi, but his children and grandchildren are rangatahi. And he doesn't want to be a matua, so he must be a koro. So koro, kia ora koro, tu meke tō mahi. To Maui, we know Maui fished up the ika nui of Maui. Well, I went over to the Chatham Islands, and Maui says, come on, let's go and get some powers. And I said, okay, I put my diving gear on, and he walks out with gumboots and a crowbar. I thought, gee, he's going to get a big fish, this one, but he's done what he's talking about. In his backyard, along his beachfront, he's had a rahui on all the paua. If you ever want to see 1 billion paua, no kidding, go and visit Maui, because he's done it. 1 billion paua left in the water. Billion kina, karingo, cod everywhere. He's done what everybody else is talking about. So, ngā mihi kia Maui. The other one who talked...
And I was trying to keep that a closely guarded secret too.
well, I won't mention the kiriri then.
Well, I was sitting there actually wondering.
I won't mention the kiriri.
Well, I thought if he's got a billion, he must be related to Shane Jones. 1 billion trees, 1 billion power. All good.
And so one of the panellists, Tane, yesterday, talked about being Māori, brought up, but working with MFAT and being in that zone, career zone, and that it's a natural hazard for us people working in those areas. We're a natural target from our own people and from the system itself. So we've got to look after ourselves in there, but we've got to look after each other. And when you're working in those systems, You're not the bouncer, and you're not the iwi negotiator. You do your job, and it keeps you safe. So proud of our people working in those zones, because we need the push and pull. Here we are out here pulling, but we need people in there pushing. And that push and pull influence is important. So although we like to throw brickbats around everywhere, we've got to give bouquets where they're due too. And yesterday we also heard Tania about procurement. By the way, Tania worked right through with Vangelis during the FTA. They worked 24 hours a day, and they were constantly ringing back here for some advice. And we just say, go harder, go harder. Oh, we can't get it any more. Then we've got it. And I says, oh, we're used to those odds. Go harder. Fixed bayonets, charge. And things like that. So they were in constant contact. We heard Tania talk about procurement. And I think procurement's going to bring me more resources directly into whānau than any other device, any other financial device that we can bring up, because it just mainlines economics and finance and business into the home, into the table every day, and we hire our own people in that zone. So full support there. And Carrie, yesterday she. They talk, they can write a book, they talk like a computer. And I have to get out a dictionary and a thesaurus and try and find out what some of these words mean.
You too, bro.
Yeah. So Carrie's fearless in front of international and national fora, and she's proudly representing Māori all the way through it. And then we had India yesterday, and she's so fluent in what she's doing, I don't want to even go there. But her father was a colonel in the Māori battalion, her grandfather, and I buried him. And I actually buried him. Everyone took off because it was raining. It was due to cyclone. So I saw India take off too. So where there's but her grandfather was a bit of a hero too, and he wrote down and recorded everything. And India's followed in those footsteps. As well, we had our cousin from Hawaii talking about Te Moananui Akea, the vast expanse. And Mary and I were in Cook Islands last week. They talked about Te Moananui Kiwa. Kiwa to them is not a tipuna, it's not a name of anything. It's blue. So they're saying Te Moananui Kiwa. Everything that's blue is ours. The blue ocean, the blue skies, the blue water. And so everything that they talk about belongs to them. And they're not isolated pockets on little islands. The blue is their home. The blue is the environment. Talking about environment, we heard that environment is not a noun, that taiao is a verb. And it's always acting, to tai onto ao. And so when you get this constant movement of the tai and the ao, you get the maramataka dictating us things. So we've unlearned a lot of that stuff that we've got to relearn and reposition. Today we had wrong paper. Today we had Vangelis talking this morning. Vangelis comes from, I might get it wrong, Crete and Greece, and so he has a memory of the Māori battalion and how they were able to work in the monks with the villagers, and supported by the villagers and supported the villagers, and so that memory of that time makes him unique in the national negotiating space for Aotearoa New Zealand. He has his own reo, he has his own whakaro, his own culture, and so we should celebrate Vangelis' position and his demean in representing us. And the fact that we don't get what we want is not up to him, but up to some other higher sources. Jane, Moana, Kotahi, we've got a job to do to get ngā Toki ruranga more entrenched and more implicit in the systems that Vangelis is creating And so that working together is vital. We had our whananga from Tunga talking about renewable energy and the fact that we need to work together, that if we did it village by village, we won't get to scale. If we did it house by house, we'll never get to scale. We've got to work together as Te Moana Nui Kiwa. And then we had Dennis from our whananga from Australia. Their civilization is 65,000 years old. We're 1,000 years old. So there's 64,000 years of sharing we've got to catch up on. And then sometimes, Taina tuakana, Taina leads the tuakana, other times tuakana lead the Taina. And those odds are normal to us. And those concepts are normal to us. Taina tuakana, tuahine, I rungi te whakaaro tahi. We also had Wayne talking about his passion about business and innovation, and goes for 51% and things like that. But it was an inspiration to hear Wayne again, just committed to passion, committed to Māori evolution and Māori development, aha ko te aha, whatever it takes. And then we had, who was with Wayne? Peter Lucas, talking about the true mita of Ngāpuhi. And I said to Peter Lucas after, is it true that you go hakarongo, hakaaro, haka this, haka that, because the missionaries thought you were saying whaka this and whaka that, and they beat the, he says, it's absolutely not true, but I think it has a resonance. But we heard his passion about te reo and is willing to share it with everybody. And his matatau ki tērā momo mahi, his expertise in there was sort of unimpeachable. And then we had Julie, was it? Julie talking about toiho and the artists, and don't forget the artists. So with Peter Sharples, his mantra was, let's build commerce on the carpet of culture. And wherever he went, he'd take some kapa with him, because it was about relationship, culture to culture, before you can do commerce to commerce. And Julie reminded me of that strategy and that philosophy. That was about it. We've had some great discussions in our workshops, and I just congratulate everybody. I thought I was over this sort of stuff, all this young, dynamic sort of vibrance and intellect and academia and perspicacity. I thought it would overtake us, it would be redundant. So I'm fortunate to have been part of this workshop and this conference over the last 3 days, to hear the ihurangaranga, or the vibrancy amongst the younger speakers anyway. And so mihi kia koutou, I rungi te kōrero anō te pai, te awa rekinga teina tuakana tuahine, I rungi te nohonga te whakaaro tahi, tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora Ngahiwi. I don't know if many of you remember the movie Good Will Hunting, but the young guy on there, he was a mastermind, And anyway, sharing a story, and I always remember him being reminded that you might know everything about the Sistine Chapel, but you'll never know what it smells like. And I think, I just really wanted to make that comment, because for everything that we know, we learn, we do, nothing beats the experience and the exposure, that you've had, Ngahiwi, in terms of, what you've done on behalf of our people over many, many years. And, you can't buy experience. And I think, we're hugely grateful to have had you here, to share that experience and, to reflect upon, the years that you've put into looking at that trade space on behalf of all our iwi. So just want to mahi to you for that as well. I'm going to come over, and I've saved you especially for last, Dr. Jason. Because, as a result of all the hard work, that you and the team have put into, bring this hui together, bring all these wonderful people. I've said it before, the calibre of kai kōrero that we've had, sitting on here on the stage. I thought that I'd, leave the last, words for you. And I suppose, I know it's your reflections, but I suppose the question that I have is that, do you think we've hit the mark?
I think we've more than hit the mark. I think we've gone through the mark and we're creating a new target, and we're on our way. And I think the kōrero that I've heard over the last couple of days is, well, when's the next hui? Can we do this again? And so I mentioned that to the funder, and they said, oh, that's a good idea, but we have to think about the pūtea. So, and I said, oh, don't worry about the pūtea. If it's a good idea, we'll find the pūtea. Hey, you know, and so I think, oh my goodness, you know, there's nothing more really to be said, really, than other than just to express my thanks to everyone, especially our panellists here, and everyone who's been part of organising this hui, and for everyone coming along and sharing their whakaaro and their aroha and their manaaki to one another. It's just been awesome. So, I mean, for me, you know, everyone says, oh, I can't wait to see the report. And I says, oh, yeah, me too. And they say, aren't you writing it? Yeah. But, you know, we'll get there. And I think it's just been so awesome to be part of the kōrero.
Yeah, ka pai. Oh, well, kia ora tātou. And look, thank you three. Maui.
Pahia.
Yes.
Pahia. At the risk of sounding as if I want to have the last word, I've got a late message from my sponsor.
Ka pai.
So it's there is a little handout here from Ngā Toki Whakarururanga, and it sets out in summary some of the things that we're asking MFAT to look at as part of the review of the CPTPP and ITAG. So just invite you to take a copy before you leave. But I just wanted to just round this kōrero off with one sort of set of observations. And the title of our hui is Advancing Indigenous Self-Determination and Wellbeing Through Trade, and Can the CPTPP Help? So that's the title of our hui. And not wanting to end on a negative note, but I think it would be fair to summarise, at least from my perspective, the general feeling over the last 2 days is that it would be difficult to answer that in the positive. And I say that because in order for there to be advancing self-determination and well-being, and I'm just going to list a couple of points here. Māori, and I'm just summarising what I've heard from the audience over the last couple of days. Māori and the Indigenous voice and presence at the negotiating table would need to be guaranteed. Indigenous people need to be part of the decision-making apparatus, and that needs to happen within free trade agreements. Secondly, in terms of the CPTPP, there really needs to be a carve-out of Indigenous rights. And we heard some of the concerns from some of our Indigenous people. If that doesn't happen, more of their resources are going to be exploited and extracted. Just a couple more. And actually, in order to assess accurately well-being, you know, how do we assess that? What are we going to do about that? So a mechanism needs to be developed which examines both the negative and the positive aspects of the CPTPP on Māori and other Indigenous peoples. And just continuing on that theme, there needs to be work done with experts in kaupapa Māori methodology, and also the Productivity Commission here in New Zealand, to develop an appropriate methodology that can assess and measure data and the implications of the CPTPP for Māori through a Te Ao Māori lens. So if we're talking about well-being, whose well-being are we talking about? And are we assessing that in a Western capitalist terms, or are we assessing it from a Te Ao Māori and Indigenous perspective. And the same methodology should happen for, how effective are these free trade agreements and these policies on Indigenous peoples? Well, we need the data and we need the methodology to do that. And just, I'd finally say, and this is on a really positive note, not that the others are negative, but they're just steps I think that will be important going forward. But when I spoke yesterday, I talked about the process that Māori helped to negotiate the IPETCA, the Indigenous Peoples Economic and Trade Cooperation Arrangement within APEC. And that's the body that has equal representation from Indigenous peoples and state members. And that's still, we're still to see how that's going to operate in practice. But the process for establishing that was really good, really good. And so certainly Ngā Toki Whakarururanga would like to see a similar process replicated within the CPTPP, ITAG, and indeed right across other free trade agreements that are negotiated and being reviewed, because that enables us not only to be talking to state parties, but talking to other Indigenous peoples within those other nation states. So kia ora tātou, that's all I have to say. Hoko mena tai me rung.
Kia ora. Can we have a round of applause for our panel? Look, I might come over to the to this mic here if that's better. Firstly, MFAT, thank you for enabling this opportunity through resourcing Te Wānanga o Waikato to hold this hui. And I think it's important that we acknowledge you for enabling us to bring what I would say is a wonderful group of people together who have contributed to ensuring that our way forward through this dilemma, if we could call it a dilemma, is being informed by those that will be affected by such agreements. And so I do want to thank you all, thank the ministry, and to also take the opportunity, Jason, to thank you and your team for an amazing job, holding this hui. We all turn up to hui. If you've never had to be the host of a hui, you probably don't appreciate the amount of time and effort that goes into it. And when I'm getting emails from Jason and his team at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, you certainly realise how much effort goes in to be able to host an event like this. I want to just before we close with karakia, I want to leave us just with a couple of things to think about. In the attempt of having a meeting here, I reflect upon what we do these days, and we look back at historical documents and events that have happened in the time of our ancestors, and we ponder the context of that time and the decisions that were made and what the effects of those decisions have been on us today. And our mokopuna will do the same one day. Our mokopuna will reflect and they'll go, my tupuna, he went to the hui around free trade agreements in Waikato, and as a result of that hui, this was the result of that, or the impact that they had on that. And so every single day when we make decisions, we're making mokopuna decisions. On the flip side of that, we're also trying to fulfill the dreams and aspirations that our ancestors left for us as well. And we all acknowledge and accept that none of our tupuna signed te tiriti o Waitangi o te Wakaputanga to realise the outcomes that we as a people are experiencing today. None of them ever signed us up for that. So we have an obligation and responsibility to the past, but more so to our future, to ensure that what we do today is enduring and is founded on principles that are consistent with our tikanga. So I want to leave you with a poem before I hand you over to Kotahi to close our hui. Author unknown, but the poem is called Ancestors. It says, goes like this. If you could meet your ancestors all standing in a row, would you be proud of them or not, or don't you really know? Some strange discoveries are made when climbing family trees, and some of them you know do not particularly please. If you could meet your ancestors all standing in a row, there may be some of them perhaps you wouldn't care to know. But here's another question which requires a different view. If you could meet your tūpuna, would they be proud of you? Nō reira, nōku nei te honore. It's been a huge privilege of mine to be the MC for this event. Looking forward to what comes about from this. The ball is in your court. May the force be with you. Nō reira, uri noa tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katiaki, tēnā koutou katoa.
I have to sing that song. I have to sing that song. Kia ora tātou. Tūtiro mai ngā iwi, tātou e, tūtiro mai ngā iwi, au e. You got it there? Tūtiro mai ngā iwi, au e, tātou e. Tūtiro mai ngā iwi, au e, tātou e. Vai a te maramatanga, me te aroha, he ngā iwi kia tapatahi, kia Kotahi rā, tātou e. A little bit louder, eh? Hei ngā iwi au e, tātou e. Tūtiro mai ngā iwi, tātou e. Vai a te maramatanga, au e me te aroha, he ngā iwi kia tapatahi, kia Kotahi rā, tātou e, tātou kia taha, iau e. E taku rangatira, e ki e mahinarangi te uri o mahinarangi, anei a tūrongo e mihi atu nei kāpia. Nau mai ki Waikato e hoa, good to see you Ngahiwi. Me koutou ki ngā mani whiri ko tatu mai nei tēnei rā. I was down at the marae having a meeting about the coronation. And then I remembered these fellas pay me big money to come up here and closer. When the people are going to throw money at me for closing this thing. Anyway, I'm only here just to close the kaupapa e kare mo. Ne, you right now? Yeah, kaupapa, waka. Okay. Anybody from overseas among us? Where from? From? Australia. Hiya, mate. Lovely to see you. Welcome to Aotearoa. Welcome to paradise. I'm talking about this place, the University of Waikato. E agu rangatira, ko tutuki nei te kaupapa, me mihaking o tātou rangatira o tatu mai nei. Hoi anō, hoki mai ki te whakakapi te kaupapa I tēnei wā, so that you'll be all going home safe and sound. Anyway, we'll make an exception for this time. I hope you enjoyed yourself in Waikato. I hope you enjoyed yourself here in this place. Okay? Reira, ngā rangatira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. I'm going to ask you to get up once more. We're going to do our himene whakaotinga, and then I'll do the karakia. Whakaria mahai, tori peka kia hu, tia ho mai, karoto I te po. Ke kona ahu, titiro atu ai. Ora mate, hei au koe no. Kia tau kia tātou kia te whai o tō tātou ari kia ihu kreiti me te aroha te atua, me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu, āke, 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 āmen. Kia ora tātou.